I'm up here going to talk about cartoons, and everyone's talking about saving the world. So but at least I got the Saturday morning cartoon spot. So I think I'm preaching to the choir about passion for what you do. But within passion, I want to talk about four things. There's passion, but opportunity, which is also a little bit of luck with that, perseverance, and change. Now, passion is an intense desire or enthusiasm for something. And my passion is storytelling, and one of my greatest passions is the story I just finished a couple of years ago. But most of my career I've worked on other people's passion projects, and Brave was the most passionate I'd ever been about a project because it was fed by three loves of mine. One is my love of fairy tales, the dark tales that tell us something about life and about give us lessons of the darkness inside all of us, but how we can overcome that, and things to look out for in the world. They just resonate deep within us. My second love is Scotland. I'm a great American mutt. I have many things in me, but for some reason my Scottish gene just screams out to be heard, and that country is one of the most beautiful countries I've ever visited. It's gorgeous, and I highly recommend a visit there. And then the third and most important love is my daughter, Emma. She's incredibly strong-willed, stubborn, passionate, drives me absolutely insane, but she is the love of my life, and she's very outgoing. And that's my girl. And she inspired the main character of Brave, Merida. But the other passion is comedy, and I love Billy Connolly, and that's one of my favorite pictures from the whole thing. Crazy Scotsman whom I adore. He's actually Irish, but that was a passion project I worked on towards the last thing of my career so far. But I've also worked on things where I had to dig deep. It's like, as opposed to another film I directed, Prince of Egypt. I actually turned it down when it was first offered to me because I thought, I don't know that I want to do a Bible movie. I'm spiritual, but I'm not particularly religious, so to say. But I just, it's been done. I don't know. I really wanted to help this startup studio called DreamWorks do so. I was there to help build the story department. I wasn't there to direct a Bible movie, but they kept asking me. They felt I was the right person to do it, so I had to really dig deep to find that passion. And I did. And what I found was the human side of the story, not the celestial. And it was the story of two brothers to me. And that's where I could really relate and find, something that I could really dig into. So, and it really makes me think about what our passion is. And, we have limitations. A lot of us are fortunate in this room to be able to do what we want to do. Some of us have the financial ability, some of us just have had the spirit and the courage to do it. A lot of people don't. But, it's like, what happens if you can't find that passion within what you do? Is it worth doing or is it not? And can we change our focus to do something else? And it's like, a lot of people have a passion to put a roof over their heads and food on the table for the family, and that's what they work for. And my parents were two of those people. Well, at least my mother was. My dad managed a grain elevator in a little town called Beeson, Illinois. And he would go to work every morning. He would come home, sit in his recliner, take a nap, eat dinner, watch a little TV, and go to bed. And that was his life. And he he didn't have a passion for anything, and it was really sad. He would complain a lot, but never do anything about it. You know, he saw what was wrong with the world, but couldn't seem to find the passion to do anything about it. My mom, on the other hand, she was the head cook at a nursing home, and she went to work every day. She came home and was basically the resident slave, because my dad was really old school, as you probably noticed. She had an 8th grade education. She was raised by her grandparents. Her grandfather took her out of school, saying it was a waste of time to educate a woman. She was incredibly artistic, but she never got to do anything with it. But her passion was not only putting a roof over her head and food on the table, but encouraging the 5 of us, I'm the youngest of 5, to go out and do something with our lives. And I think I was a little special to her because I was the one that had the artistic ability, so she really encouraged me. It wasn't like living through me vicariously, it was just she wanted her children to have more than her. So, and she eventually, in her 60s, got the equivalent of a college degree just through the mail. So I took my mom's side. My dad died really young and very unhappy. My mom died very old and pretty happy. So I was sort of took my mom's example. And so opportunities come along, but they come along either by working for them or a lot of luck. And I've had both. So I had the lucky thing was that my sister had a friend who had a cousin who worked at Disney. And they got his number, and I took the opportunity to call him up, and he got me the name and number of the assistant to the head of animation, feature animation at that time. And I asked how I could get in to go work at Disney, because that was the only place, if you wanted to get into animation, that's where you wanted to go. And I'd been drawing since I could hold a crayon, and that was what I wanted to do. So they told me about CalArts. It's a school in Valencia, California, that it's the only school in the country where you can actually get a BFA in character animation, which I have, whatever that's worth. But I applied, and the first time I was rejected, and that's where perseverance kind of comes into it. But I was devastated. I cried all night. But then, Merity, I was thinking about that. I don't know where you are, if you're even here, but it's like, what am I going to do? So I worked really hard for another year working with the local junior college art teacher to get another portfolio together, but instead I didn't put all my eggs in one basket. I applied to like 5 different art schools. And the end of that year, I was accepted to all 5, which was, I was like, wow, a little hard work, golly. But I stuck with my original plan. I went to CalArts. And the thing is, my dad had died the year before, and I had to put myself through school. My parents didn't have the money. My mom didn't have the money, but she did have this extra life insurance policy that she didn't know my dad had taken out. That helped me with my first year. But I knew after that I was going to have to really work hard, and I had to work really hard during school. So my first summer after my first year at CalArts, I worked for a company called DIC. I still don't know what that means, but we always joke and said it was do it cheap. So I worked there, and they did syndicated television, which is like Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestlin', Real Ghostbusters, Dennis the Menace, those things. And I'm proud to say that my first animated gig was Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestlin'. It's so me. But they asked me at the end of that summer if I would go to Japan and work on the lip sync, because they sent all of their animation over. Because oddly enough, because I'd gone to CalArts, I was the only one in the studio that actually had animation experience. Everybody else were designers, but they hadn't animated. What they didn't seem to know was that your first year at CalArts, you don't work with sound at all, therefore you're not dealing with lip sync. But I didn't tell them that. So I figured I'll figure it out while I'm over there, which I did. I had some great people, and that's back when I was skinny and had a neck. But I didn't have a clue, but I had a great time. I learned what I was doing, and it was pretty intuitive, and I had this opportunity to grow. And so I did that actually for 2 summers while I was at CalArts. Then I had my last year at CalArts. I was putting together we were all putting together our portfolios to go to Disney. I mean, that's where everybody wanted to go. And, we all wanted to be animators when we first got there. But somewhere along the way, my dear friend, the late, great Joe Ranft, who Esther mentioned, was a good friend of mine even when I was in school. And he had seen my storyboard. And if you don't know what a storyboard is, it's basically the visual script of the film. And even in the big feature films, we do storyboards, and writing happens along with it, but a script for an animated film is usually a transcription of the film after it's done. You can have a script in the beginning, but it's not going to be anything like what the finished film is. So it's a working process. You write and draw, and you can work with writers as well. But that's what I was loving. By my last year at CalArts, I realized that was my passion, was storytelling, less than the tediousness of drawing things over and over again. And so when they were telling us to put together a portfolio, they told me that, you have to apply for cleanup. That's the only way you're going to get in, which is doing a clean line around the animator's drawing to put it on model so that it looks alike looks the same throughout the whole movie. But I was so naive, I didn't realize it at the time. I just thought, okay, that's what I have to do. But they were telling the boys that they could apply to be animators, And that was just the old school Disney thing, was that usually women were in cleanup and the men were animators. It's stupid, but that's the way it was. And but the other thing was, they also told me not to apply for story. I'd have to work my way in there. But something in the back of my head just said, I really want to get into story. I don't want to do the tedious part that other people love to do. It's like my passion's not there. So I just put my storyboard in the back of my cleanup portfolio, and then on the cover letter at the bottom I just said, P.S. would eventually like a story-related position. Well, I was hired as a story trainee. So that was, that little niggling thought in the back of my head was what got me into story. But the thing was, it wasn't just that. It was reverse sexism. I was hired because I was a woman, because Disney was getting flack that they didn't have any women in creative positions, especially in story. And I was young, and I was the right price because I was coming in as a trainee. And I'm not just assuming that. The man sat across the desk and said that to my face. And I was like, okay, I want to work for Disney, But I realized I was going to have to work even harder to prove to them, but more importantly to myself, that I could do this job and that I deserved this job. So I really had to work hard. But I took that opportunity and I kept going. And my first film was The Little Mermaid. And I have a story about my first, they have a thing called weeklies where they show all the work of the week, up animation, storyboard, story reels, or whatever. And they had me do, as my first assignment, the part of your rural reprise. I don't know if you know the movie or not, but it's where the mermaid has rescued the prince, and she puts him up on the beach and saves him, and is singing to him, and then the dog and this other guy show up, and she goes off and swims and hides behind a rock. Well, she's singing this reprise. This is my claim to fame on Little Mermaid, is that part where she pushes herself up on the rock and a big splash wave splashes behind her. That was my idea, and that was it. But the thing was, in these dailies, these weeklies, when my scene came up, that drawing, she's anorexic anyway, she's pushing herself up and having her sing her heart out. And everybody started laughing, and I'm like, what? And then they started talking, and I realized that I was really making her sing, her neck look like a giraffe. It was so long, it was like, just... And so I was mortified at that. But the next week, we'd made changes to the sequence a little bit and put it back up. And then that same drawing came up, and people started howling. And what they had done was cut off her head, move it down, and you could see the piece of tape across the neck to make it like a normal neck. I was just mortified. But the thing they told me was they really liked the expression and the feel that I had given her. They didn't redraw it, which it would have been easier to do that. But they told me that they didn't want to change the spirit within the drawing, that's what they wanted. So it really made me feel a lot better after being absolutely humiliated. But after that, they did put me in cleanup on Roger Rabbit, just so I could improve my drawing abilities, because it's a really good training ground for draftsmanship. So I was doing that for about 4 months, and then I got the opportunity to come back and go into story again. And I worked on a film called Rescuers Down Under, and so I had an opportunity to work on a scene that no one else could figure out. This is taking me longer than I thought it was going to take, sorry. And it was a scene where this golden eagle has been rescued by this little boy from a hunter's trap, and they go up to her nest, and where the exposition was trying to say that she's alone, her mate is dead and was killed by a hunter, and this hunter, she's worried about her eggs being alone. Well, it was always done, they couldn't get this information across, so they had to do it in dialogue. And all the senior story artists were saying, "My name is Marahute, and I would like to tell you, I'm afraid for my eggs." I mean, and we'd cringe every time it came up, and everyone was trying, but I'm going, "Oh, please, please, please give me a try." And I managed to do it. I was the last one given the opportunity, but I managed to do it through pantomime with the bird and the boy asking the tough questions and getting that information across. So that put me on the map there, because I could solve something that other artists couldn't. And it gave me the opportunity to work on Beauty and the Beast, being the head of story's right-hand man, woman, whatever. And it gave me the courage to say, I'm ready to be a head of story myself after this project. And I was aiming for Swan Lake. But Disney Swan Lake, ever heard of it? Yeah. No. It was canned because there was another studio doing something called The Swan Princess. So that didn't work. And so I was like, no, not this one, not this one. It was my greatest fear. It was a story called King of the Jungle that had been in development hell for years. I was trying so hard to avoid it, but one of my mentors was directing it, and he asked for me specifically, and so we got in a room and we reworked that story. It took us 2 weeks to just tear it apart and really put it back together, and we made The Lion King. And I ended up having a blast. We went to Kenya on a research trip, and it was considered the B project because everybody wanted to work on the A project, which was Pocahontas. And so I had a really green crew. I had a couple of old timers, but I had a really green and hungry crew, and I gave them the opportunity to grow and show themselves, show what they could do, and they did. And then I had the ground floor opportunity to work at DreamWorks, which I've already talked about earlier. The opportunity to work on Prince of Egypt, but then I moved on from there because I wasn't crazy about the types of projects they were doing at the time, and I just needed to find a place where my passion could be. I tried Universal, Sony Animation, and ended up at Pixar, where I was given the opportunity to do my dream project. Now, that has a different ending to that story, which I will get on just a little bit later, but I had the opportunity to work on that, and now I have the opportunity to work for myself and my husband's company, Chapman Lima Productions, where I'm illustrating, I'm writing, I'm blogging, I'm speaking, and I'm mentoring, which is a real big thing for me. I'm also consulting and developing projects with Lucasfilm and DreamWorks. Again, they're starting to broaden their horizons. But I'm crazy busy in this really wonderful way because it's like suddenly the world's open and I have this passion for all these things I can do. And then there's perseverance, which if you get knocked down, you get back up. That's just how it works. If you have disillusionment, you don't give up. I mean, as so many of you know, I know I'm preaching to the choir, so I'll move on from this. But you keep doing what you do. The struggle is worth it, and you find new ways. Change. I think this is the most challenging one for everyone. It often comes when you don't want it to. On Brave, about a year and a half before the film was released, they took me off for creative differences. And I was devastated. And I'm still kind of amazed about it because, you know, I look at the film now and it's still very, very much my story. My heart, my soul is in that movie. And it was difficult. And it took me a little while to get over that one. But at the same time, I thought, there's still so much more of life to go on. I still have my daughter, even though I have this thing that I wanted to give to her as my gift of love to my daughter. That's what that project was about for me. But I still have her. I still have my husband. I still have my talent and my ability to share my passion with people. So you know, you get knocked down, you get back up. And then sometimes change, sometimes change is what you create for yourself. Like I left DreamWorks on my own. I wasn't pushed out. I left Disney on my own. I wasn't pushed out. You know, just you look for that change that will enrich your life and enrich those around you. And you have to be open to it. But you also have that, you know, the cliche, or that those wonderful cliches of there's always a silver lining, or when the door closes, a window opens. I mean, cliches come from truth, and it is true. You just have to be able to look for it, have to have the passion and the spirit to actually look for it. The passion is the most important, I think. It drives all those other things. It makes everything work. It's what motivates us. It's what motivates those who work with us. And my passion right now is in leadership. I think it's important that you allow people to contribute. I mean, when I work on movies, I'm not the only one working on the movie. Yeah, Brave was my idea, but I couldn't have remotely gotten there without this incredible team of artists and people who were inspired by my story and what I was telling them and how they could contribute to it. I mean, I couldn't have done that hair, you know. I said, I want it to look like that, but I couldn't do it, you know. And other story artists who brought their own experiences with their sisters and mothers, because there were still just a bunch of boys there. I had one woman story artist. But you encourage people to grow. You know, their passion, as in shoes, as in clothes, as in everything, is going to show through in that end product, and you're going to feel it. No matter what it is, it's there, and that passion will shine through if you allow them to give that. And I feel it, and it keeps me going, and makes me want to buy those quaddy shoes. You know. So I saw in the paperwork that we need to leave a passion to-do list, and my big passion is, big do, is to inspire passion through leadership and mentoring. I speak at a lot of universities, and for students, I've been to Dublin, going to New York and Washington, D.C., and I really want to inspire young artists, especially young women, to know that they can do something with their passion, whether it be in the film industry, whether it just be an artist, whether it be a writer, to give people something. I mean, I'm not out there saving the world the way I feel like I'm talking about cartoons here, but at the same time, I think we give people an escape, or we can give them something that will inspire them to go out and do something for real, even though they're only seeing it in a film or in a book or something. I am doing my best to give back what I am capable of doing. But the small do is just to find your own passion, and what is that, and how does it give to people out there. So thank you very much. That's